Hello and welcome to Amazing Humans, Epic Tech. I'm Julie Snook.
From our schools and tech talent of tomorrow to the change needed within some of Australia's biggest companies, we explore what we need to do to ensure we don't get left behind.
Amazing Humans, Epic Tech is your theme this year. What can be achieved when you put those two together?
Absolutely. When you put amazing things together, magic happens, right? So even in the robotic age or the photonic millennia, you still need smart people. You cannot do anything without amazing humans. So what we want to see is amazing humans coming together, creating epic tech that is in the best interest of humanity. Because as you know, technology is no different to anything else. You could use technology for good or to do the opposite. And what we want to see is technology creating a better, more vibrant society for humanity and for the world.
So, where do we start? One amazing human, Dr. Jordan Ewan, gave us his insights.
I'm starting with inspiration because I think we should always start with inspiration, especially for our young people out there. When you find the things that you're interested in, the areas of work that you find interesting, if you combine that with the things that you're inspired by, I think that is a perfect mix.
Kids of today, they're socially and environmentally connected across the world, and this was something I raised in my speech. The kids that I've seen from primary schools, high schools, socially and environmentally connected across the world, also digital natives, don't know a world without the smart technologies that we have today. So if they're that connected and their understanding of the technologies and where we might be going, we need to have good role models who can guide that change, because they're dealing at the same time on the other side with understanding what is happening in the world from a much younger age. And so what we want to do is to not build up that anxiety, instead realise that you can band together, you can find the issues, the challenges, the problems around the world that you want to see solved and work towards those. So having those role models in those different areas is so important to guide the talented tech youth of today, and to realise that they can make a difference. Everyone can make a difference in the lives of others, in our world and the environment if they so choose.
Put your hand up if you are in some ways worried, cautious about where we're going. In particular, who's worried about where the future of technology is going? Who's worried? Let's, I think I've got time for this. Let's throw some of those things out there, some of those worries, because I can try and pull them into the talk as well. Yell them out. Let's start over here. I can see hands. Yell it out. What are we worried about? Security, absolutely. Over here. Yell it out. Nothing. This is the optimistic area. Over here. Surveillance. Keeping humans involved, absolutely. Over here, yell it out. Sorry? Environment, trying to manage our environment. What was over there? Social impact, absolutely. Now, these are all the areas that I know they are close to my heart, finding out where these technologies are going. Every major technological advancement brings about new ethical issues to solve, new dark sides, more episodes on Black Mirror. But then there's also many positive, beautiful opportunities with each advancement as well, and that's what we've got to find. Now, sci-fi, all the sci-fi books, the movies, they gave us these depictions of the future where they built these technologies. They sort of brought out the ideas and the trends of technology of where they were going in the future. They also gave us a very dystopic depiction of the future, in most cases. And that's because of how consumers chose to consume these stories. So this was all our doing, which is why we all got those movies where artificial intelligence, where robotics, where everything, virtual reality takes over humanity. And so what we're left with, after all these years of those technologies being made into real life, we're left with this dystopic depiction of the future. So that's why it's up to us, especially those who are in these fields, to rewrite that story, to rewrite the story of where we're going, to find the excitement in the future and the positive opportunities about how we can harness these new tools at our fingertips to improve the world.
Human insight and technological advancement all at the same time. I think what's fascinating about our advancements in technology is that it gives us a greater understanding of ourselves. It helps us learn more about humanity, more about what it means to be human in a lot of cases. And it's not just the technologies themselves that allow us to scan more about ourselves, it's also the technologies that make us almost think existentially about our own future, about the future of our species, the future of our world, wildlife, the environment, and it bands people together in many cases. So sometimes we need those external threats like artificial intelligence, I mean, it makes us talk about what it means to be human so much more than ever before. At the same time, we start to go, well, where are these types of technologies able to be utilised to achieve the dreams that we've set out? And I think that's what's so fascinating about it, is that we actually learn more about what it means to be human.
Stephen Hawking once put this out there, that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And I always love that quote. Our world is changing rapidly, and I think this is something that we're all seeing very quickly. Our world is changing rapidly. We're starting to see a lot of that.
I would say that the major insight that I've gained from Reimagination, amazing conference today, brought so many people together, is the fact that it's brought that many people together, is the fact that we've got many people from all walks of life turning up to a technology conference to learn about not only where is it going, but how can we harness it, how can we have our own positive impact, how can we band together and collaborate across the world. I think that's a fascinating thing. The insight that I've gained is that our humanity is going in the right direction, and I absolutely love that.
But in order to move forward together, we can't afford to leave people behind.
As you know, the emerging technologies really create a massive divide between the ones who understand the emerging technology and the ones who don't. So if you understand emerging technology and if you're able to create value, then we're able to propel Australia forward. But if you don't, we're going to lag further behind. You probably have seen the PISA scores have come up in the last couple of days, and we're not really doing well when it comes to the reading. We're 18 months behind. If you look at science, we're 3 years behind. And when it comes to mathematics, very importantly as well, we're 4 years behind compared to the leaders. So how do we try and meet the short-term needs in the short-term horizons, as well as longer-term needs in terms of making sure we have the right caliber, right level of education and people coming through, and then creating value in this emerging technology area.
For Richard White, founder of multi-billion-dollar tech firm WiseTech, realising the value in emerging technology is going to take a bit of work.
In terms of Australia, how are we in paving the way for digital developments?
Look, I think we have some very bright entrepreneurs, but these are unfortunately outliers. And I've been speaking quite consistently on the need to refocus ourselves on the technology future. And I think we're underweight on our young adults, people in school that should be the entrepreneurs and technologists of the future. We are underweight on the education we put towards those things. We're underweight on government strategy. I think the government's doing a good job, but could do much better. And we have to recognise that in the very long term, the jobs that we have now that sustain the country, mining, banking and other things, won't be the high growth, high yield, high value jobs of the future. Technology is revolutionising the world. It's eating economies whole and changing the world into something quite different to what it was. And those traditional things that we do, we can't rely on for the future. So we do have to rethink that strategy. And Australia has got a great economy, it's got fantastic people, it's got a strong education system and a good system of laws, but we do need to think about what that looks like in 20 years' time.
What would you like to see the schools, the government doing?
So a lot of people talk about STEM education. And if you talk to a young person about STEM, the science, the engineering, the maths turns them off like that. Technology, however, is infused into all those people in everybody's lives, and it's very easy to understand. They work with it every day and they love it. And getting people into technology, which really means innovation and changing the future of the world, is actually a pretty easy thing to do. And stop scaring them with mathematics, science and engineering, which is important and will pull through. But you need to give them a thought about the future that sounds interesting and something they're familiar with. So I think we need to invest in more technology education in school. Maths and science and engineering will follow through because they're necessary to be a good technologist, but you shouldn't lead with things that most school children think of as frightening or boring.
Well, it's almost natural now, isn't it?
It is. Technology is, every single child probably has access to a smartphone, a computer at home, a laptop maybe. Their parents use them, their friends use them. It's everywhere and it's easy to relate to.
In terms of retaining technology and engineering talent here in Australia, how difficult is that?
it's a problem of a ecosystem. We need to have that ecosystem stronger, and companies like mine and Atlassian and many others are actually very strong in building that ecosystem here. We employ a full third of our global workforce here in Australia, and most of them in Sydney and Melbourne. But we're small in comparison to the entire economy, and most of the economy is not doing what we're doing. So we do need to think about how you keep companies onshore, how you make it safe and straightforward for companies to grow here. And Australia is actually a good place to grow a global business. I can do business with the US in the mornings, and I can do business with Europe in the evenings, and that makes my day fairly long, maybe 12 hours, but it's a hell of a lot better than getting in a plane every week and flying everywhere, and it's certainly as good as being in the US. And we have actually all of the components. We have great people, stable system of laws, a great ecosystem in an economy. We haven't had a recession for decades. There's many positives. We just need to take those positives and turn them into a future strategy.
What about in terms of innovating versus adopting here in Australia? Is it something we should be out to innovate more, or just adopt?
Actually, Australians lead in adopting technology. We are usually a test market for many products. We had chip and pin here before America had chip and pin. We have lots of things that we are good at doing, and we take on things much more quickly. We are basically a cashless society today. America is still quite the reverse. We're still writing a lot of checks in the US. I think there's an opportunity to use Australia as the test market for these businesses as they grow, and having successfully done it in Australia, you can then say it will probably work in some variant of that easily overseas. Whereas going to the US first, maybe you just become very US-centric and never become a global business. Australians have to be global if they're going to be a substantial business.
After the break, we'll be looking at data as an enabler of business growth and exploring what you need to know to make sure your enterprise doesn't get left behind.
This program brought to you by ACS. This program brought to you by ACS.
Hello and welcome back to our Reimagination special, Amazing Humans, Epic Tech.
We know our schools and universities have so much to do in shaping the innovators of tomorrow, but corporate Australia also has a lot to learn. Wendy Stops is a non-executive director on the board of CBA and Coles and has more than 30 years' experience in shaping the adoption of technology in some of Australia's biggest firms.
When it comes to traditional business models and adapting, what is your advice to company boards and directors?
I think with the business models and directors, you have to be prepared to really question the business model that you have, and is it something that can sustain us for the long term? You know, what's our strategy? Where do we want to go? Does our business model really position us for doing that? You know, how do we embrace technology? How do we embrace innovation in maybe a business model that we currently have that's maybe set more in the past, you know? So I think, you know, when we talk about innovation, it's not just about technology, it's about innovating on our business models, about innovating on our products, it's about innovating on the way we approach things, you know, so it is a much more holistic approach, and the boards need to be switched on to that. You know, it can't be just about have we got the technical skill or whatever to do this, but have we got the right business model? Are we going to be successful in that particular innovation under the current way in which we're structured, or the processes that we have, or whatever? It's part of the whole picture. So the boards really do need to be thinking about it much more holistically.
What are some of the challenges you're seeing in terms of that approach?
I think organisations can get in a comfort zone. you know, we've sort of had this for a while, it works, you know. Are we prepared to just flip it on its head a little bit and try something a little bit different? What if it fails? You know, I think a comment was made on our panel. Australia, I think in general, is a little bit more risk averse in a lot of organisations than other places. And so it is natural, I think, for organisations to be a little bit hesitant to try something a bit more radical or a little bit different. And so I think that the board's challenge is to continue to poke and prod and sort of, you know, encourage them to get out of their comfort zone a little bit and look for ways in which we can think differently, act differently, without creating an environment in which we've put so much risk on the business, you know, because we're going to do something completely wild and crazy. So it's finding that balance between the risk side of it and, you know, and really being prepared to move out of your comfort zone.
Well, how do you measure and track that innovation at a board level?
It's quite difficult to do, and I think the measure side is quite difficult. I think the track side is maybe a little bit easy because I think you can be asking, well, what is our innovation pipeline? You know, the board may not use the word innovation, but, you know, what is our product pipeline? What are the things that we're doing to think about what our competitors are doing? When we have our strategy sessions, you know, just what are those competitors doing? Where are we? Do we think we should be following what they're doing? Do we think we've got an idea that we can leapfrog them or do something different? It really depends on the company and where they're currently positioned and what's going on in their industry and in their market. But I think the board needs to be constantly pushing for that pipeline of ideas and things that's coming through and asking for these things to come back to the board on a regular basis. So if there's a new idea or a new initiative or a new product, whatever it is that you're embarking on, don't just say, yep, we approve, and then come back in 6 months' time when you're ready to launch it to the market. You know, come back and tell us in 3 months' time where you're at, how's that going, are we still on track, do we think it's still going to work, not work? So it's really asking those sort of types of questions on an ongoing basis and you know, until we do get to the launch, rather than sort of like setting them on their way and then hoping it all works. That I really think is to have a two-way thing with boards. You know, boards are not just there to ask the questions and whatever, they're really there to bring their experience, you know, to the organisation. And so, you know, the more that companies can embrace the board members and the experience that they have and tap into their thinking and their brains and their ideas and whatever, the more chance the company's got, I think, of really getting a huge amount of value out of the board.
Navigating the risks and rewards in shaping vast amounts of data presents both a challenge and opportunity for Australian businesses.
Trust has been another big ticket item in the press. How do you ensure trust with your customers, both consumer and business, in providing personalised, customer-centric services using data?
Yeah, so I think trust, particularly in the Australian culture, trust really has to be earned. There's, you know, AGL is over 182 years old as a company, and there is a trust that customers have in us to provide their energy. Same as banks, there's a trust that people have to provide banking products. But to then think that that trust could extend to how we treat customers' personalised, you know, personal information and data, and banks and energy companies know, like, there is so much personal information in the way that you transact and the way that you use energy, that to think that that trust that people have, I trust you to provide my electricity, to I trust you with my data, to think that they go hand in hand is a big mistake. So you have to really be thinking about how you earn that trust, how you honour, you know, when people sign a consent, yes, you can have my information, or they agree to, you know, there's the customer business kind of contract that goes together. When people agree to that, then honouring that time and time again, and making sure that people see that you are continuing to honour that trust that they've given you in the first place. And so it's just always thinking about, is this next action I am going to take going to keep that trust with the person whose data this is? Just always keeping that front of mind.
So with the Economist Intelligence Unit earlier this year, we went out and we surveyed over 750 top executives from the largest organisations around the world in a number of key markets that we're really interested in. We asked them, well, what are the main challenges today from you as organisations harnessing the technology that you've already got? And the biggest challenge was 41% of responses said it's the complexity of their data that they have. And then we said, well, if that's for today, what about into the future? What's the main challenge that is stopping you from adopting new technology in the future? And 51% said security and privacy, which has come up earlier. So I think this is really interesting because what we're talking about today is absolutely topical for the large businesses all around the world. But then we asked a question that says, why? Why are you investing and in emerging technologies? So these are the largest organisations around the world. Now, I don't know about you, but in the circle of marketing, we are constantly talking about customer experience. How do we use technology and data to make that customer experience better? But customer experience was third on the list. Only 25% of organisations around the world are investing in enabling emerging technologies to help improve customer experience. 40% said it's to improve efficiencies. So the key driver for organisations around the world to invest in technology is for internal efficiency gains. I just thought that was really insightful because we are going into an era where we've got slow economic growth around the world. We've got geopolitical challenges. So we need to really understand, I mean, this group, you're the technology geniuses of Australia, you really need to understand where and why organisations are leveraging new technologies. So encourage you to go and just explore tailored with technology and see what other gold nuggets you can pick out of it.
From digital disruption to machine learning and data analytics, there is so much potential for corporate Australia to innovate and evolve. It's exciting to see where today's thought leaders will take us in tomorrow's world.